Hi, welcome. I'd like to welcome you to the April 9th, 2024 meeting of the Cupertino Planning Commission. And we will start at the top, as always, in our agenda with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could do roll call.
Commissioner Matapatla,
Here.
Commissioner Mystery is absent. Commissioner Sharp,
Here.
Vice Chair Linskog,
Here.
Chair Fong.
Here.
All present accounted for, one absence.
Great, thank you. Our next item is the approval of minutes from the March 12th Planning Commission meeting. Those are in the packet. Please take a moment to review. We can take a motion. Everybody's ready?
I propose a motion that we accept the minutes from the March 12th Planning Commission meeting.
Second, we do want to wait? That's perfectly okay.
I'll second.
Chair, we have to take public comment.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
No, not on minutes.
yes. Well,
I'm looking to the assistant city attorney here.
no, that's okay. It's an agenda item. We
Sure.
yeah. Do we have any speakers for item one?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so no speakers here or online. We'll then close the public part of this meeting. And are there any changes or proposals for change? Doesn't look like it. I think we can go ahead and vote. Please vote with your lights.
Motion passes with 3 ayes, 1 absence, and 1 abstention.
Great. Thank you very much. There are a number of normal items. Are there any?
I abstained because I wasn't there in that meeting.
Yes, yes. So I think that's actually a correction from the, so one abstention, I think you
I said
that.
1
Yeah, okay,
abstention,
great,
yes.
great. Next item, are there any postponements?
No postponements, Chair.
The next section is oral communication. This portion of the meeting is reserved for people wishing to address the commission on any matter within the jurisdiction of the commissioner and not on the agenda. The speakers are limited to 3 minutes. In most cases, state law will prohibit the commission from making any decisions with respect to a matter not on the agenda. There are no speakers in the room.
We do have 1 speaker on Zoom.
Great,
San R.
great. Sanar, you are ready to speak. Welcome.
Hello, Planning Commission and Chair. I request the Chair to please agendize housing element updates through the Planning Commission. The other cities like Saratoga and Los Altos are using their Planning Commission to provide regular housing element updates to the public and providing an opportunity to share progress and to share what impediments exist to the approval from HCD, as well as any builder's remedy projects that the city has since received. It would be good if our planning commission could do the same. I understand the city council's agenda is fairly packed and it is hard to get on the agenda there, but hopefully chair can prioritize housing element updates for the future agenda items. I would also request for any information on builder's remedy projects to be made visible to the public. I understand there is a SP 330 application on Schofield Drive for a 24-unit multifamily on what used to be a single unit lot. And that's quite alarming, particularly because that is right by the school drop area for Ferry Elementary, which is a school of 600 kids. So as you can imagine, we have a lot of traffic log jam in that area with 600 kids trying to get in and out of Ferry Elementary. And I know one of our planning commissioners is also on the Safe Routes to School and appreciates the challenge of getting in and out of schools. With 600 kids getting into Schofield Drive, a single unit being replaced by 24 units is quite alarming. And we would like to understand what information the city has, how can the public learn about it, what recourse the city has, and how can residents help shape your response to this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No other speakers?
There are no other speakers.
Great,
Chair.
thank you. Next item, consent calendar.
There are no consent items.
No
Chair.
consent issues. If that's the case, then we will, there are no public hearings on our
No public
agenda.
hearings.
Is there any old business?
No old business, Chair.
All right. We have one main item tonight, new business, which is a review of the fiscal year 2024 to 2025 capital improvement program proposal. And the charter of the Planning Commission is to review this for consistency with Cupertino's general plan.
Thank you,
Yes, you
Chair.
go
Good
ahead.
evening, Planning Commission. This is something that the city Planning Commission acts on every year, and I don't want to take Susan's thunder away, who's here from Public Works, to give us a brief presentation on the CIP projects that are under consideration, and to describe how they meet the general plan policies. And we're looking for your recommendation to find it consistent with the general plan. With that, I'll turn it over to Susan.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Does this work? It did. Now? Beautiful. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. I am Susan Michael. I am the CIP Manager, Capital Improvement Programs Manager. And we are here tonight. I wanted to start with the recommended action. Just as a side note, I'll be referring to all the things that I'll put on the screen are attachments that were part of the staff report. So there shouldn't be anything new. So the action tonight is to adopt a resolution finding that the fiscal year 24-25 capital improvement program is consistent with the city's general plan. And just as a background note, the City Council is responsible for setting the CIP projects and the funding priorities, but then according to the Muni Code, one of the roles of the Planning Commission is to review that CIP to make sure it conforms with the general plan. So, I thought that I would give a brief introduction about the projects. In your attachments, the first attachment was the resolution that we're having to consider tonight. The second attachment were the codes that were mentioned in the staff report. The third attachment are the narratives that I'm going to show some images of and has the detail about each project for your reference. And then the fourth was a matrix of going through the general plan and finding how the projects conform to the general plan. I wasn't going to go into the great detail with this. I'm happy to answer questions about it, but I just thought I'd give a brief introduction about the projects, and then if you have questions. So, interesting thing about this year's CIP, as you know, we are in a new budget reality at the city, and we would like to keep our spend and our number of new projects down to a minimum in order to respect the fiscal reality that we're trying to come to terms with presently. And the interesting thing about this year's CIP, they are driven by health, safety, and welfare, but also for 3 of the 6 projects, we received significant grant funding, and that is why you'll see a number of the projects on the agenda for this year. So the first project that worth mentioning is the Bollinger Road corridor design. So in 2020, there was another previous study done on Bollinger Road. As you know, it's had some accidents. It's not, it needs to be improved in terms of the safety. And so the city of San Jose and the city of Cupertino worked together on this study in 2020. and did an initial study. And one of the results of that study was to say that there's two options, but we need more traffic analysis in order to figure out what's the best way to go here. So we were actually able to secure a Safe Roads for All federal grant this year, and this is I want to say 25% matching. But this money will be used to do the traffic analysis that's needed to identify the recommendations for the next course of action, of course. Public input will have community meetings, and to do the preliminary engineering, to do the design. That will give us the groundwork to take it and get more grant funding for the construction, because we expect, depending on which options we go with, it could be a very substantially expensive project. So this would give us the starting point, really, to get it going. And so EVCS is electric vehicle charging stations at the service center.
So
Yes.
can you just explain how each project complies with the general plan, so we know? Because that's what, we're only here to do that, not to determine whether we like the project or not.
Right. So the Bollinger Road corridor design does meet many of the goals in the mobility section. There's regional planning coordination. They're actually working with the City of San Jose on that one. We have in the past, and we will do it in the future. Neighboring jurisdictions, policy, land use 10, 1, 2, and 3. The mobility goals, regional coordination, complete streets, street design. Basically, we're trying to make the road safer and allowing more modes of traffic on that road. So that is the main way that one does. And if you look through the matrix, it clicks many boxes in terms of the policy and the goals. Is that sufficient? Does that help? Attachment 4. Yes.
Page 26 of 28.
Yes.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Yes. So if you can see at the top of that, actually, I have it there. So the top has the relevant projects, and then Bollinger is the first one on each one. And it literally clicks the box on many of these as we get down to more of the mobility goals. So, okay. The
Do
next
we ask questions on each of these projects as we go through them, or should we hold off until you are done with all the projects?
I'm open to whichever way you'd like to do it. It may be more efficient to go through it and then hand it back to you.
Okay.
The electric vehicle charging stations, EVCS, at the service center. So this project is in response to new state requirements that the city is required to make all of its purchases for the fleet. At least 50% of those have to be zero emissions vehicles, which for us translates into electric vehicles. So we need to put in the infrastructure to support the expansion of the fleet in that direction. We actually worked with Silicon Valley Clean Energy. They did a free report for us to help determine what was needed. And this was the cost estimate that came out of that work. So this would be to fund the engineering and the putting in the conduit and whatnot to pull the infrastructure to the service yard. Yeah. And so this also meets many of the goals and policies of the general plan. It is fiscally a good idea to have this use of electric power as opposed to gas. And trying to find some good examples. It definitely meets the infrastructure goals near the end of the general plan. And it also, it's referenced in you could say it's part of our climate action plan, in that we're expanding towards more clean sources of energy for all of our work. And the McClellan Road Bridge replacement. This is a project that we've received a $5 million grant for, but we actually hadn't taken the project to council to get approval of the project. So we've been talking about this for a while. And then this year, we also received another $850,000 grant from Rokana's office. So we had Evan Lowe and Rokana's office both pony up for some money towards this. This project, the bridge on McClellan Road near the Ranch Preserve, McClellan Ranch Preserve, is from 1920, and it's outlived its life. It's definitely needs to be renovated, and we'd also, where the design would hopefully include expansion of the lanes such that we can have bicycle and pedestrian access on either side. So we also are trying to get more funding for this from external sources, and we found that we need to have the engineering in place in order to do that. So we're hoping to use the funding that we have received in order to get the amount of money that's still needed to do the construction. So this is, for example, a zero ask from the city in terms of more funding. We'll use the grant funding that's already in place, but we need to have it as part of the CIP, and this is the mechanism for doing that. And once again, this does address infrastructure needs, policies. It's improving health, safety, and welfare of the residents by having a safe bridge. It expands the transportation accessibility, adds pedestrian and bike access to the roads. So many of the mobility goals are also addressed. All right, and the next one is the photovoltaic systems and design and installation. So we applied, PG&E had decided to change their rates last year. The amount of money they pay for when you have solar panels, how much they will pay for that electricity that's generated from that system. They were changing from what's called NEM 2 to NEM 3. NEM 2 is better. It's a better rate for the consumers. So they said, we're changing to NEM 3, but we'll actually grandfather you in if you've got your permit application in, or you've got your application in at this time, and you have the whole thing constructed by April of 2026. So we successfully submitted applications for 5 locations in our portfolio: Blackberry Farm, Civic Center, Library, Quinlan Community Center, and Senior Center, considered one, and the Sports Center. So this project aims to design and build photovoltaic systems for all 5 locations. We are working on the conceptual design right now so that we can then go out for design build contract. And this one is also an infrastructure powerhouse. We hope to save, I want to say, $500,000 a year on our utility costs. So that is promoting our fiscal health of the city. That's mentioned in land use and also in the infrastructure section, if I remember right. And it's also is part of the climate action plan, using cleaner sources of energy, greenhouse gas emissions by reducing our electricity generation and other aspects of our utility costs. And the roadway safety improvements. This was another grant that we applied for and were successful with. It's a $3.2 million grant. We have a matching of $350,000 for the city. As part of the local roads safety program, the safety plan, there were 17 road segments that were identified as places to apply high friction pavement, and the speed limit signs displaying your speed as you go through it as deterrents to speeding. And as I say, we were successful with the grant. So the plan is to install this high friction pavement and the signage at these locations. So once again, this meets the mobility goals and policies, and I think it's also an infrastructure improvement. I wanted to find, there was one in particular, but So this one is improving the safety of the roads specifically. Anyway, okay. And I'll go to the last one, which is the Vi Avenue outfall. There's an outfall at the end of Vi Avenue, and that's why it's called this. We were alerted that this is a picture of that. There is actually a big hole in the corrugated metal pipe, and it needs to be replaced. So this is a health, safety, and welfare project, definitely, and it's definitely kind of the bread and butter of Public Works. We do have to do a good number of environmental permits, so that's why this is so expensive. It's adjacent to the Regnart Creek, so that is part of the motivation here. So we're hoping to get started with this as soon as the funding is approved. We want to make sure it doesn't ruin the habitat that's adjacent with the water in that area. So this is definitely in the infrastructure goals, making sure that it's best practices for stormwater management. And that is all of the projects.
Any questions from anybody here?
So I have some questions on some of the projects. Can we go back to the first one, the Bollinger Road?
Yeah. Yes.
So it's great to see the external funding for this. I'm trying to understand what's the goal of this, right? What's that we are trying to achieve through this project?
The motivation for the original feasibility study was that there was a fatality.
Yeah,
and
I'm aware
the
of
road is
the
quite
fatality.
dangerous, and
yeah.
so the motivation for the project is to increase the safety of that corridor.
Okay.
Both cities are motivated to improve that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if the goal is to improve the safety for pedestrians, which is what the fatality was about. Or is it, are we trying to do bike lanes, sacrificing, a car lane? Because there is a lot of, feedback and outrage, from the people that live in that area about, sacrificing a car lane for bike lanes. So I'm trying to understand, what's the goal we are trying to achieve, right? So if the goal is to improve the safety of, pedestrians and, walkers, that's great, right? But I don't want that to be, used as an excuse or a pretense to go and do retrofit bike lanes there, right?
So if I can interrupt, Commissioner, I think this is sort of beyond what's been agendized. If you want to ask staff how this particular project is conformance with the general plan, I think that's appropriate, but sort of the substantive questions as to, what the purpose of the project is beyond this agenda.
Okay. And what's the outlook on the further funding for that 4 million spent? Because the projected, total spend of the outlay for this project would be, 4 million, right? So, do we have any insights on, how much of that, we will get some grants and whatnot?
I'm sorry, that we would guess on what? The last part?
Any
Grants. Oh.
Yeah.
That is down the road. We don't. I wouldn't have a good answer for that. We'd hope for 100%.
Okay.
But I don't have more specifics.
I mean, it's nice to see that, for doing the study, it's like almost 3/4 is coming from, some external funding, right? It'll be nice to get something similar, of that, $4 million,
Yes.
right? So,
By beginning the project, we can hope to achieve that in the future.
okay. Can you go to the next project, the charging stations?
Yes.
So this one, I'm surprised that there is no external funding for this, despite it's a green initiative. So, are we trying to install any specific, private party charging stations, or are these all like city-owned, non-branded?
So staff, I can ask you to the extent that you can respond in terms of its conformance with the general plan. I think it's appropriate for you to do so.
It is appropriate? Sorry. I didn't
I
understand.
think what the city attorney is saying is to the extent that your response can be to the extent how it complies with the general plan.
Right. Right.
in terms of funding.
Right. Well, so this particular project is not public facing. This is internal facing. It is increasing our viability of our fleet, and it's a infrastructure project more than anything. We are specifically putting in infrastructure. The further expansion of electric vehicle charging stations is another topic altogether. This is to specifically reply to a state mandate.
So if I may, I mean, to the extent that vendors are chosen for the construction project, that will probably go through our bidding and procurement process. And so that'll be a separate process in the future down the road. But again, the focus of the commission should be whether this project complies with the general plan or not, and not the funding sources either.
Okay.
Actually, if I could comment, and I think perhaps some of the question may be, this is in response to a state mandate that's separate from the general plan. But given that the city is going to do this, we're just measuring the compliance with the general plan. Yeah.
Correct. To some extent, yes.
Yeah.
It does happen to comply with the general plan.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe, if I can suggest, can we just focus on that table and see if we have any questions on any of the check marks on any of that table? Because that feels like that's more in line with what we're being
That
asked
would be
to vote
perfect.
for.
This is page 2.
So, Chair, I was about to suggest that if there's no further questions, maybe open this up for public comment.
Yeah. We can certainly, if the questions from the commission, or if we're ready to go forward.
Right, these will be questions to staff on our presentation.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. There are no further questions. Then let's do that. Let's open the public comment. Is that okay? I don't want to rush anybody if they have questions for the staff report.
I'm good to go.
Okay.
We have one speaker on Zoom, Chair, San R.
Okay, great. Senar, welcome.
Yeah, good evening, Chair Fung and Planning Commission. I'm looking at the guiding principles in the General Plan 2015 to 2040, specifically for the Bollinger Road vision study, and based on some of the feedback that has been received as well as the survey that has been conducted. And one of the guiding principles in the General Plan is the guiding principle number 4, enhanced mobility, which is ensure the efficient and safe movement of cars, trucks, and of course transit pedestrians, bicyclists, and disabled persons throughout Cupertino in order to fully accommodate residents, workers, visitors, students of all ages and abilities. And I want to raise the fact that given the high volume of traffic through the Bollinger Road corridor, which is parallel to Stevens Creek, and the fact that it connects to an important expressway, which is Lawrence Expressway, there is a significant amount of traffic. And I believe that any change to Bollinger Road that is guided by the study towards lane narrowing and other attempts that will constrain the flow of traffic is inconsistent with the enhanced mobility guiding principle of the general plan. So I wish to draw your attention to this guiding principle, that this is not consistent as far as ensuring the efficient, safe movement of cars and trucks, specifically on Bollinger Road. And I also want to further draw your attention to guiding principle number 2, which is improve public health and safety. Given the volume of traffic through that road, if we reduce that to a single lane road, the amount of congestion will lead to significant amount of smoke pollution. And there are a number of kids that walk and bike to school in that area as well. And so, in addition to the residents that live in that area, we are exposing the public that uses the sidewalks and walks and bikes to school to an increased amount of smoke pollution. And we have seen that on McClellan as well, with the addition of the four-way. I forget the name of that, but the four-way junction at McClellan and Bub Road. We see now that Bub northbound has to wait nearly 15 minutes in order to get through that light. From Kennedy to clearing that light can take up to 15 minutes before the light turns off, before that traffic four-way junction turns off. So one of my concerns is that in addition to being inconsistent with guiding principle 4, this is also inconsistent with guiding principle 2, which is improve public health and safety. So I wish to ask you to focus your discussions around how these attempts that may be well intended but lead to traffic congestion and smoke pollution, as has already been seen in certain other places, is going to be inconsistent with the general plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
No other speakers, Chair.
Okay. We'll close the public comment session. Bring it back here.
So I don't think, I appreciate what Sana R says, but I believe a project doesn't need to meet every single one of the goals to qualify. And yes, the changes to Bollinger may result in, more traffic congestion for cars, but safer routes for bikes. We don't know yet because there's still, it's still being studied. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thanks. Other comments? All right. If that's the case, then perhaps I would entertain a motion.
Just one other I don't see how the Bollinger Road changes would increase vehicle parking. Maybe that I don't know if that goal should really be in there. If anything, there'd be parking removed.
Through the chair, I might agree with that. That might be a mistake on my part.
It's kind of funny. I was actually going to comment on the one next to that, which was the electric parking program. It wasn't clear, other than the fact that vehicles are parked when they're charging, that had any relationship.
Yeah, I noticed that one too. I wasn't sure why that was there either.
I was just like,
Yeah. So I think I think you may have a comment from the commission that one may be one to look at. Just decide how close of a connection you want on that. Any other comments? It's interesting because I actually, when I just saw that one completely by accident and then looked around to see if there were any other consistencies, and I didn't actually see any that were, kind of a longer stretch.
Yeah,
I mean, you prove me wrong.
No, I don't see any of these 6 projects that meet goal 6. I mean, that's fine, but I don't think those X's should be there in that row.
Yeah. On balance, they still, I think that there's, there have been plenty of positives identified, even though we do recognize that there may be places where, may there be an effect from this which might not be viewed to be completely supportive. But on balance, I think it seems to me that this is a good reflection.
yeah, I think they meet enough of the other criteria that, yes, I agree. Here and there, it's a little bit stretched, the relationship, but all in all, I think that they meet the general plan guidelines. Yeah.
And I would also say, as many of them are investigating, doing the investigation for a plan, that definitely, then you can really make a call, and including accommodating the public input as to whether this is something that will be, will be compliant with the plan when it's actually envisioned.
Shall I make a motion?
Yes, you're welcome to.
All right. I propose a motion that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution finding that the fiscal year 2024-2025 capital improvement program proposal is consistent with the city's general plan.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Very good. Any further discussion? All right. If not, let's vote with our lights. Very good.
Motion carries unanimously with one absentee.
Very good. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for to the staff as well. Well, we're racing through the items here. In fact, we have pretty much raced down to staff and commission reports. Is there a staff report?
There is no staff report, Chair, as you are aware that the council adopted the ordinances for the DA amendments based on Planning Commission's recommendation. So that went through at the last City Council meeting. And thank you for being there to answer questions for the City Council, both Chair and Vice Chair. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, I think that it was great to see that the extensions adopted, and I think it was great to see that the applicants were open to the items that we raised with regard to the dark sky and bird safe policies. Any commission reports? I did attend the mayor's meeting. I think it was fairly routine. We basically did a walkthrough of the projects that each of the commissions have been working on. I think that's probably it for my report. Any others? All right, then we'll move to a future agenda setting. Are there any items people would like to raise here?
Oh, go ahead.
So, as one of the residents brought up, I would like to see the housing element stuff, put it on agenda. It's been almost a year since, we saw anything on the Planning Commission agenda on the housing element. I think it's last May, or maybe even before that, I think. So, the Planning Commission should be in the thick of things with respect to housing element, but we haven't seen anything, on that front come to the agenda. So that's very concerning.
I would like, if possible, to see a staff report on builder's remedy, because we're starting to get builder's remedy projects. And especially I'm concerned that there's a new bill in the legislature being proposed that would reduce the affordable housing on builder's remedy from a flat 20% to a flat 10%, which would be bad for our affordable housing goals. So if we could get some kind of staff report that explains builder's remedy and how we could work to avoid that, that would be great. Thank you.
If I could ask, we actually discussed this in the agenda setting session, these items, and I'm curious if we could maybe make a comment. There were the two items that were mentioned in the public comment were related to the housing element and also to builder's remedy. Am I correctly stating that from a city standpoint, should a builder's remedy project be proposed, it will be documented, on the website, and that's probably the extent of the formal coverage of that? Is that correct?
There is no application yet for a builder's remedy project in Cupertino, except for the one on Stevens Creek Boulevard, which is on hold per the developer's request.
Okay. And then with regard to the discussion of the housing element, again, there's been a public process in review of the drafts of the housing element that have been submitted. Again, does that encompass the scope of public communication on those?
Yeah, let me try to answer that, Mr. Chair. There's going to be a study session for City Council on the 16th. so this coming Tuesday. And we're also expecting this Friday to have the latest round of comments from HCD. They would be due then. Conceivable we could even get them sooner, but I'm assuming we'll have them Friday. And I think at that point we're looking at a schedule to move this through the hearing process. So I understand the comments about meetings, but there also have been over 30 public meetings on this project. They were on the front end with about 20 of those in 2022. So knowing there has also been a lot of comment about the city being late, we're over a year late now, as our 7 other jurisdictions in the county are still not certified as well. We've really tried to focus on working with HCD to get this process moved along. But we are aware and plan on getting feedback from both the Housing Commission on the policies and the Planning Commission, which would have to make a recommendation to council before we can take it to council for action. So we're hoping to have those dates soon, possibly next week.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other items in agenda setting? If not, then with that, at 7:26, we will adjourn today's meeting. Thank you very much.